Hello, this is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today I want to talk about how to detox negative emotions from your body. Okay, so that was kind of a clickbaity title, and I will admit that and own that, but I do have what I think will be a helpful analogy for how to handle negative emotions and how to move through them. And how to not get stuck in them when it's not in your best interest to get stuck in them. Okay? So let's start with this analogy and then go from there. Okay? So in the human body, we know that it can accumulate toxic substances. So this can be things that we, consume. This can be things we breathe in from the air. This can be like viruses, bacteria. It can even be things like toxic byproducts from just the normal functioning of your body, that we produce toxins. And that is why the body has kidneys and a colon and lungs and the lymphatic system, so sweating, in order to remove these toxins. So toxins are a normal part of life, right? They're not really that big of a deal unless we start to store more of them than our bodies can handle. And if those toxins are ingested and or created in the body and not released, that's when we run into problems. So if we take like a really kind of like mainstream understandable example of this, we could think of like a cold virus, right? So if a cold virus comes into the human body, right, what the body is going to do is it's going to fight to kill the cold virus, right? You're going to have a fever, you're going to have white blood cells, you're going to have all of this stuff. And then the waste that is produced is going to be eliminated from your body. Like we get excess mucus, you might even, vomit. There is an excretion process that happens, right? And what we can look at kind of in normal society here is that no one says, I've got a flu virus or I've got a cold virus and says, I am the flu or I am the cold. You see what I'm saying? So we do not, as a society, tend to identify ourselves with a physical toxin, a physical thing that's going on inside of our bodies that is not helpful for us. You see what I'm saying? So this is part of where I want to go with negative emotions, is that most of us, when we have a negative emotion arising, right? So we're sad, we're angry, we're jealous, we're scared, we're fearful, we're depressed, we're any of these things, anxiety especially, we tend to identify as being sad. I am sad. I am lonely. I am depressed. I am angry. And this is where I believe we start to run into trouble when it comes to emotional healing, okay? So if we look at a toxin that's entered the human body that is then either, killed or eliminated or whatever, we don't identify with the toxin as being us now, right? You don't say, like I said, I am a cold. I am a virus. I am excess urea. You see what I'm saying? We have this understanding that the body is going to do what it's going to do to bring itself back into alignment, which is the absence of that disease or that toxin or whatever, so that the body can continue functioning the way that it was always meant to function, very optimally and healthfully in an ideal state, right? And it is the exact same thing with our negative emotions, okay? We need to start thinking of them not as who we are, but as something that we are experiencing, okay? So rather than identifying with a negative emotion, just like we don't identify with a physical illness, I mean, definitely people do identify with their physical illnesses, and that's kind of a whole nother video altogether, but I'm just saying, like, if we keep this kind of general, just as we don't identify with, our urine, or we don't identify with our stool, we don't identify with these things that our bodies are eliminating as being who we are, we need to start to take the same kind of stance with our emotions. Okay? So I want to kind of continue on with this metaphor so this is kind of where the metaphor a little bit falls apart, is that, I don't believe that we detox negative emotions out of us as though they are some like legitimate foreign substance that we need to like get rid of, because I believe that kind of can get us into the denial territory and the like, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid of being sad, I'm so afraid of being lonely, I'm so afraid of being depressed or whatever, because right, we think that it's like this thing that's attacking us. So this is kind of where the metaphor falls apart, but like I say, I really wanted to get across first this point that especially if you're someone who's practicing like sitting with your negative emotions and being with your negative emotions and not fighting them and not resisting them and not trying to get away from them, you're practicing just being with them and allowing yourself to feel and allowing yourself to process whatever's happening. What I want to kind of say here is that this is the place where we don't want to identify with the negative emotion, because that identification, that saying that I am sad, like this sadness is now who I am, like we take it really seriously, like it is who we are now, that is where we get stuck. Okay, that is the same thing as saying, okay, well, like I am a cold now, so I'm just gonna continue to, like if your body said, well, okay, I've got this cold virus, so I'm a cold virus now, right? So we're not gonna get rid of it, we're not gonna transmute it, we're not going to do anything about it because it's our new identity. You see what I'm saying? So if the body did that, that would be quite destructive for us. You can see how that would be very destructive, right? But this is exactly what we're doing with our negative emotions, you see? So we might even be in the process of sitting with them and being with them and allowing them to arise and allowing them to, like I say, show themselves. But then we fall into this trap of believing that they are who we are. You see what I'm saying? That we fall into the trap of identifying with them. And therefore, we're having this stirring up, right? So the negative emotion is coming up to give us a message, to show us something, right? To deliver to us an understanding of where we have gone out of alignment with the truth of who we are, just like a virus, right? A virus, like all the symptoms that your body gives you when it has a virus are showing you, right? It's a message that, hey, something's going on here. We're out of alignment with the truth of who we are, which is absolute health. So same kind of thing with your negative emotions. They are arising to say, we've gone out of alignment somewhere. Okay, so now this is kind of where the metaphor falls apart, is that we don't want to detoxify ourselves from negative emotions. We don't want to try and get rid of them. We don't want to try and flush them. What we want to do is we want to step back, right, and create that little space bubble where we're not identifying ourselves as being the negative emotion. We are identifying ourselves as being the being who is experiencing the negative emotion, just to create that little space, right? Just to create that, okay, I'm not the depression, right? There is a being that is me, that is whole, that is pure, that is clean, that is true, that is completely in alignment, that is completely, happy, blissful, joyful, totally aware, totally knowing, totally understanding. And then there's this other part of me that is currently experiencing the emotions of depression, that is currently experiencing sadness, that is currently experiencing anger, whatever it is, right? So we create that little space bubble, which then can make us feel a little bit more safe to explore what that emotion might be trying to tell you. You see what I'm saying? Because when we identify with it, that's when it gets really scary, right? When we think we are depression, when we think we are anger, when we think we are sadness, when we think we are these negative emotions, this is what's going to kick up in us, that just kind of like resignation, that, you get into this kind of like negative loop. So kind of like the same thing as like stirring up a toxin into your bloodstream but not excreting it in any way. So then it's just like circulating and circulating and circulating and kind of like toxing you further, like doing damage further and further and further. That's kind of what we're doing when we identify with a negative emotion and we sit with it and sit with it and sit with it, but we're not allowing it to move through us or to show us what it's really trying to tell us. We're not allowing it to give us its message because we're just holding on to it as who we are now. You see what I'm saying? Or we try really, really hard to deny it, and we try to pretend it's not there, and we try and pretend like we're not sad, we're not angry, we're not depressed. And that's the same thing. It still can't give you its message if you're denying it. And therefore it just continues to kind of circulate, and you fight it, and it circulates and you fight it, and it circulates and you fight it, right? So there's this 2-step process to really dealing with a negative emotion. And the first one is to disidentify to a degree. You see what I'm saying? So it's not to say completely disidentify and completely deny that it's happening, but you disidentify just to the degree that you say, I am experiencing this. This is a part of the experience that I'm having right now. It's not who I am in truth, okay? It is not the ultimate truth of who I am. It is a relative truth that I am experiencing that's trying to lead me back to the ultimate truth of who I am, okay? So that's really what a negative emotion is. And then we sit with that negative emotion and we say, okay, anger, you are not who I am. Sadness, you are not who I am. Fear, you are not who I am. You are a part of what I am that is trying to show me that something is out of alignment. Okay? So when we can sit with the negative emotion like that, that's when we can allow it to transmute itself back into the light. You see what I'm saying? So, again, like I've said this in many, many videos, and I kind of just hope that this explanation maybe makes it a little bit clearer with the kind of like detoxification metaphor, is that the negative emotion is not who you are ultimately, okay? The negative emotion is like a messenger that says, hey, we've got out of alignment with who we are ultimately, and now I'm like the toddler who didn't get any attention or didn't get what I needed, and I'm throwing a temper tantrum to try and get your attention, all right? So negative emotions need to be seen as like they are a part of your light that have simply been misunderstood and shoved into the shadow, okay? So we don't identify as being the negative emotion. We identify with the negative emotion being a part of us that's trying to bring us back into alignment with who we are. So then we sit with the anger, we sit with the sadness, we sit with the depression, we say, okay, I invite you into my light, depression. I invite you into my light, sadness. I invite you into my light, whatever negative emotion we're feeling, anger, jealousy, whatever. What message do you have for me? What are you trying to communicate to me? What are you trying to show me that I have believed that is out of alignment with who I am and out of alignment with the truth of reality that is making me feel so terrible, right? It's the same thing with a virus. When your body feels sick, it's alerting you that something has gone out of alignment, right? So that you don't continue on doing that thing. And I've said this in many videos before, right? If the body didn't react to a virus, if the body didn't react to a bacteria, if the body didn't react to a toxin, it would continue to accumulate. You might continue doing the things that you're doing that caused that thing to happen, and eventually it overrides the system and you die, right? So the body gives you these signals as saying like, hey, pay attention, look, something's out of alignment, right? And it's the same thing with your negative emotions. They crop up not to take you down, but to try and save you from going down. You see, the negative emotion is not the thing that's trying to destroy your life. It's the out of alignment with who you truly are belief systems that you have that are taking you down, okay? And the negative emotion is just trying to alert you to that. So this is why the practice of sitting with your negative emotions is only effective so long as you're not identifying with being the negative emotion, okay? The negative emotion is a part of who you are, yes, but it is a part of who you are that is currently experiencing a shadowed representation, okay? So you bring it into the light of your love as a semi-separate thing so that you can get a clear view of it, right? You create that little separation just so that you're not so attached to it, right? And then you can start to see, okay, if I'm not sadness, what is the sadness trying to tell me? And then you're willing to move forward. You're willing to transmute it. You're willing to become not the sad person anymore. You're willing to come back into alignment with who you are. But when you identify with the sadness, then we become unwilling to allow it to transmute because it's a part of our identity now. You see? And we are always going to live up to our own expectation of who we are. So when we identify ourselves as being someone who is sick, we tend to always be sick. When we identify ourselves as being someone who is sad, we tend to always be sad. And it's the same kind of thing. If we're denying that we're sad when we're sad, we're always sad, right? So it's this happy medium. It's this middle place of acknowledging that it's happening and acknowledging that it's a messenger. It's not there to take you down. It's not there to be there forever. It's not who you are ultimately. It's who you are relatively that's trying to get you back to who you are ultimately. Okay? So this is how we detox a negative emotion. We sit with it. We disidentify to a degree, right? So not dissociate, not deny. Disidentify to a degree. This is not who I am ultimately. Now what is the message? What do you have for me? What are you trying to show me that's going to help me bring myself back into alignment with who I ultimately am? Which is love and joy and light and freedom and everything, okay? And these negative emotions are amazing, okay? It's not wrong that you experience them. We're having a human experience, okay? The pain, the suffering, the things that we go through are not wrong, okay? They are all catalysts and opportunities for us to realize our light. Okay? We go through the contrast in order to be like, yeah, okay, that was a shadowed aspect. And that shadowed aspect caused me to go into my light. And so awesome. Thank you, shadowed aspect. Thank you for showing up negative emotion. Thank you for showing up negative feeling because you are giving me an opportunity to see myself clearer. Right? You are showing up for a reason. You're demanding my attention for a reason because you're trying to lead me back to my light. So I'm going to let you lead me there. What do you have to show me? What do you have to, right? And then you become able to come back into your light because you're not so attached to being the negative emotion, right? You're not identifying as being the negative emotion. It's just an experience that's bringing you back to your light. Okay? So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I'd love to hear from you. Find me on Patreon, link down below. Find us on Facebook, Perception Trainers, Instagram, Allie_Perception Trainers, and yeah, I would love to hear from you. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah.